Nothing. 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 I'm looking right now. I mean, Bitcoin's bounced in a $300 range. ETH is pumping. ETH over 2,500. Woo! ETH is pumping. So we were right about that, I guess.
And do you think this is just an anticipation for the ETH ETF? Like the markets are,
Yeah, it's like literally it took 2 seconds for people to move on from caring about the Bitcoin ETF for them to start being degenerates and finding the next trade and move on to Ethereum. I mean, this is the most poetic crypto thing ever.
Yeah, but
there's anticipation, 6 months of people talking about what will happen with the price of Bitcoin. It does literally nothing, and Ethereum goes up.
This is nothing to do with crypto. This is just markets being forward-looking, and this should have been expected, no?
I suppose, but I mean, how many shows have we listened to everybody talk about the $10,000 God candle or sell the news or it's going to die, it's going to go up, and Bitcoin is literally just doing nothing. Nothing. Yeah, I'm not saying it won't. I don't believe that, like, as I've said over and over again, the Bitcoin Spot ETFs are not priced in long term, right? I mean, and I keep saying it's just like the halving. The halving comes, and then everybody has a party, and nothing happens for 6 months because it takes a long time for the reduction in supply to actually matter. It's going to take a long time for the inflows to matter. And frankly, I think yesterday's fake news took the wind out of the sails. Anyone who was trading this aggressively with leverage got liquidated or closed their position and move on. It's the most crypto thing ever. It's unbelievable. But I feel good because I've been beating the Ethereum drum here for weeks, saying it's an opportunity, and I think that it's just trailing. That's probably a good thing, not a bad thing. While everybody was celebrating the death of Ethereum, maybe it won't last, but pretty crazy to see this happen. The rotation so quickly, which tells you, by the way, that this is all crypto native degenerates trading this and not any obviously new retail or new participants, because it's not like mom and pop who died.
ETH is up over almost 9%.
Bitcoin's down or flat. I haven't even looked. I mean, in 24 hours,
I'm looking at 24 hours down 4%. I'm looking 24 hours. Ethereum is up almost 9%. And altcoins,
I'm seeing Bitcoin down 1.3 and ETH up 11. Depending on the time that it's been to. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and alts seem to be pumping. I'm not sure if there's an index that you look at. Again, I don't watch the markets live, but I'm just looking and scrolling down, and
I just opened it.
Everything seems to be pumping there. Preston, Yago, your thoughts?
Yeah, Gunny, I see you in the audience as well. I just invited you if you want to come up.
What Muppets? What absolute Muppets! I can't believe they did it twice.
Yeah, I mean, they crashed their site. Like, I literally screen grabbed a video thinking there was this off chance that it might happen. So I did see, before I tweeted the SEC link, I did actually look at it and do a video capture of it, which is on my thing. But yeah, it went to a 404 error. We crashed their site or they moved it. But I mean, you got one day they get hacked and the next day they can't even keep the announcement on their website. It's astounding incompetence.
Can I just take a moment to talk? Bitcoin keeps on amazing me how much it's some kind of metaphysical, mystical, spiritual miracle. Like the fact that Satoshi, nobody knows who it is, that they have a superhuman level of restraint, they disappear, they have a superhuman level of being able to maintain their privacy. They create this little piece of code, they just drop it, and it's got within it the viral components, its own DNA is all that it needs to market itself and grow into infinity. And since then, every single thing that has been happening with Bitcoin has had some kind of weird poetic license. Like right now, like the SEC spent 10 years fucking around and edging the entire community about whether or not they're going to give an ETF, and at the very end, just as like a subtle, I don't give a crap about this. I'm unaffected, but I'm going to destroy you. Bitcoin demonstrates to the SEC that they can't control their private keys, that they can't manage their computer systems, and manages, poetically to demonstrate to the world how the SEC are incompetent and exactly why we need decentralization and we can't trust these authorities. And every single time I think about Bitcoin, it does exactly it finds some weird poetic way to be mythically perfect. It's really astounding.
Yago, you saw that today is 15 years to the date of how Finney's running Bitcoin tweet.
Yes, it's just one thing after another. I don't understand. It feels preordained. I'm not a religious person. I'm not a mystical person, but it you know it's really it's so beautiful.
Yes. So just want to, if you could just keep the market updated, Scott, I think it would be good because a lot of people are watching. ETH is at 2,523. Is that the highest for the day? Let me see.
That's the highest for let me see, that's the highest since May 22. Well, that was already the case, but it's touching now levels from May 9th. I'm looking at Monday, May 9th-ish, 22. But yeah, it's the highest. It just made a new yearly high.
And is there more to it? Is there more to it than just the anticipation of the ETH ETF? Because what I don't understand is how could they price in the Bitcoin ETF approval, but they can't price in the ETH ETF afterwards?
Well, think about how much Bitcoin has gone up as this process has been dragged out, right? I don't remember the exact date that BlackRock filed for a Bitcoin Spot ETF. We have people here who definitely do. Beginning of last summer. So we're talking about 6-7 months of watching that. So imagine now you have a theoretical ETH trade in anticipation waiting for that. Where that ecosystem goes wild. I'm not saying that will necessarily happen, but that's been the sort of the conjecture here, and that it was going to trail. But listen, I mean, we can talk about the price or all those things all day. We have a number of actual experts on the ETF. We have Matt from Bitwise, Matt from Vanek. Wow, double Matts. That's fun. First, Matt Siegel, you lit the world on fire, man, last week on Spaces when you said that you heard BlackRock had $2 billion in flows coming on the launch. So I'm assuming nothing's changed there.
Hey guys, great day here with these 19B4s getting approved 20 minutes ago. Still waiting on the S1s to go effective. That's important just to make sure that this is, 101%. We'd expect those in the next hour or so. The $2 billion number from BlackRock for like first day to couple days flows. Eric from Bloomberg corroborated that with another source after I highlighted that. That may sound low, right? There's some chatter now that it might be as high as 4 billion across all issuers. You saw a number of additional fee adjustments overnight. So these products are just looking extremely affordable, especially for traders, compared to finding liquidity on various exchanges. It's a historic day. Pretty interesting to watch the market movement. I'm seeing, it's ETH L2s. It's like Cardano, Polkadot, some kind of random coins leading here in the last hour. Bitcoin is down. I think that when all's said and done tomorrow, Bitcoin dominance will reassert a little bit. I wouldn't read too much into this news, but great day.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, Matt, you dropped. Matt Hogan, you dropped. I don't know if we lost you there. I was about to ask you a question, but yeah, he dropped. It was funny because I was speaking to Matt Hogan on, I guess, Tuesday on YouTube yesterday, and I could tell. I keep joking that he wanted to say so many things to answer my questions and couldn't, right? I mean, Matt Siegel, you guys have had basically probably a lot of knowledge or insight as to what was likely coming and probably just couldn't say it, right? I'm not saying you knew, but you guys were pretty sure this was going to happen here.
Yeah, the listing exchanges, CBOE, for us and a number of the filers, NASDAQ for others, they really take the lead on a lot of the operational communications with the regulator, especially in the final stages here. And when you saw those kind of motions to accelerate the listings this morning on the tape, those come from the exchanges. The exchanges wouldn't do that unless a little birdie told them to. The little birdie's the regulator. And why would the regulator do that is to line these up to trade tomorrow. So, there has been some back channeling between the exchanges and the regulator.
I think that makes perfect sense. I mean, circling back to the price action, is this surprising anyone that Bitcoin's not moving tremendously at the moment? I mean, actually, it's kind of dropping now. Just went down to 45,571. Not as far as the other things. Or is it because it's been dragged on so long that effectively nothing's going to happen in the short term? Gunny, what were you watching for here with price?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on, Scott. I think that probably the most anticlimactic climax of the last 13 years in Bitcoin's history. Definitely well priced in. I was expecting a serious dampening of volatility. I think over time, what I'm most excited about, I think you're going to see a volume explosion across all complexes that carry Bitcoin. Now that you are introducing an ETF, the amount of arbitrage is going to come into play, the amount of index arbitrage, the things are going to happen. Not only just the channeling of the rest of the retail world into these spot ETFs, which ultimately, I kind of sat on both sides of the fence. I had asked in a few of my smaller chat groups that have a lot of more like kind of Bitcoin OGs in there, what their thoughts are, and like, does this go for or against kind of the original Bitcoin ethos? And I'm interested to hear people like Bruce and Preston and whatnot and what their thoughts are. But I think ultimately a volume explosion. I think you're going to see some dampening of volatility over the next few months here, and then probably, as you said, as things start to filter through the system, as things filter through the markets as a whole, you probably start to see it catch some tailwinds and onward and upward from there.
Yeah, I agree. Matthew, you said, sorry, I just want to circle back. You said roughly 4 billion you think is lined up. How fast do you think we generally see that AUM flow in? And how much of that do you think is new flows versus people that basically own Bitcoin and you guys made the calls, all the issuers made the calls and said, hey, convert this into the ETF?
It's really hard to tell. I think it's a question of whether retail shows up with enthusiasm for these products. I will say that all of those fee adjustments that were made over the last couple days, all in a downward direction, like Grayscale didn't match any of those. So the gap between GBTC and all these ETFs is wider than the market thought it was going to be a day ago and probably a week ago as well. And we've gotten a couple phone calls from GBTC holders, so there might be more churn than the market had originally anticipated. As the 4 billion, I think that's a reach number. I'm still kind of sticking with the 2 over the first week.
It's still pretty exceptional and far more than anyone was talking about a couple of weeks ago. Eric, you're here. I tweeted earlier that I will not release any ETF news until I see it on your account first. I will not be fooled.
Yeah, actually, a lot of the media is being held back because the site was down and or they want to wait till the S1 is effective. I get that. I get while they can't really go out with it, but that 19B4 was up. You can read the language. So, yeah, this is big day, highly anticipated. Regarding the 4 billion, it was said earlier. I think that was on my call or somebody else's call. I don't know. This is based on BlackRock's too. We know of a couple other people planning some BYOA, and then we think there could be some kind of organic excitement. So, this is Rebecca's call, my team, to before. I think BlackRock IBIT probably sets the record with the 2 billion. I think that's their goal, is to say we were the best launch ever, even though that's planned money. But the bigger takeaway is how much will be an organic grassroots volume and flows. And James and I will be able to suss some of that out. Bitto was all organic. That's why it was such a special launch. We'll see how much is organic. But again, the short term is really volatile. I think long term is what we're looking at here. And this is no way this could be bad for the asset class. Issuers, there will be a definite fight for assets, though.
So just Scott, do you want to? I've got a question, but first, can you just give an update on the markets before I ask a question for the panel question that you asked you?
Yeah, I mean it's about the same spot. Yeah, it's about the same spot. ETH. Funny that we're talking about ETH, but that's at 25.20 seems to be the biggest mover. And as you said, a lot of the things in the Ethereum ecosystem have moved too. I mean, just like random layer 2, Matic up pretty big. Looking on the daily, which obviously is one of the more popular layer 2s, from 80 cents to 88 cents. So 20% move there. Metis is another one that's there, up from like $77 to $92. And Bitcoin actually dropped. It went from all the way down to about 45,351 in the last 15 minutes, but trading right at 45,722. But at this announcement, it was pretty much flat at 46,000. So, within a few $100, nothing compared to the volatility, right? We saw a $3,200 30-minute candle yesterday, from 47,901 at the top to 44,701. I really think, and Travis, I see your hand up. You said this earlier, and it was something I've been talking about quite a lot. I think most of the froth was liquidated and cleaned out last week on the Matrix Fork day. So, that was the biggest liquidation event we'd seen in over a year, over 500 million in a matter of minutes. So, I think that if that was all in the system, we'd be seeing tremendous volatility, and then you got the fake tweet yesterday. So, Travis, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say the fake tweet yesterday pulled some OI off as well too. I was going to ask Eric. I heard Eric in another space a couple days ago talking about trying to parse through this like bring your own assets concept with like Bitcoin that's already been bought versus like new incremental Bitcoin buying. And I was just curious if you could like unpack that a little bit. I think you or James mentioned that it's as much of an art as it is a science. Can you just like talk a little bit more about that? Because I think the market seems like it will probably be pretty focused on like what percent, let's just say it's 3 billion total across all products in the first, in the next 5 trading days or something like that. And like what percent of that hypothetical 3 billion has already been bought versus will need to be bought, I think is going to be something the market's going to be pretty focused on.
Yeah, no, good question. First of all, everything that goes into the ETF has to hold Bitcoin. So whether they bought it ahead of time to plan up a big creation, or it's something that is exercised on the first day, it still has to go into the custodian. So it's a 1-for-1 situation. I don't know when. I mean, these issuers are really smart about what they're used to doing, rebalances on indexes, which everyone knows about ahead of time. They're going to be smart about not getting picked off or legging into something, in my opinion, probably. So I don't know is the answer. I do know that when BlackRock came out with 2 of their ESG ETFs over the past 3 or 4 years, those 2 are the ones that are at the top of the all-time leaders with $2 billion each. And what they did in those cases is they lined up a big institution, a Finnish pension plan. So again, this BlackRock, it's still a rumor, but 2 really good people, including one person on the space.
I think he just dropped out. Yeah, we did. Travis, while waiting for Eric to come back, can I ask you, and where's Matthew? I think he's just dropped out as well. Can I ask you a question? Your thoughts on ETH's movement? I'm not sure if you already answered it and I missed it. But ETH and whether this is purely an anticipation for the because no one talked about ETH versus Bitcoin pumping until we saw that happen yesterday.
Oh, I don't think that's true. No, I think people that were paying close attention were like thinking that this was the trade that was going to be on deck for a while. I mean, I write a monthly update. I wrote about it, 2.5 months ago, that it looked like it was setting up for it. The chart looked really good. ETH BTC at the bottom of a range, and then it just seemed like such a straightforward type of narrative that the ETH ETF that they're just and I think talking to kind of legal, guys I consider legal domain experts, that there just wasn't going to be a leg for the SEC to stand on to approve a Bitcoin Spot ETF and then not approve an ETH Spot ETF shortly thereafter, because for all the same reasons they approved a Bitcoin Spot ETF, those are essentially in place for an ETH Spot ETF to be approved as well too. And ETH is just a lot jumpier than Bitcoin. It's a lot smaller. It's the trading volumes are thinner, so it just historically just look at the realized volatility of Ethereum versus Bitcoin, and it can really get jumpy, even more so than Bitcoin. And I think you're kind of seeing that play out right now.
Yeah, I think that all makes a lot of sense. Matt Hogan, I was trying to get you up before. I mean, little victory lap here. I mean, you guys have got to be very excited.
Congrats, Matt.
Yeah, we're absolutely excited. We've been working on this for 5 years, and the SEC website is back up.
So yeah, I was gonna ask a question. Like, are we sure? Because I haven't had time to look at it. We're preparing for this space. I'm like, guys, are we sure? Are we sure? Because Scott in the back channels when the team sent it, that's why we launched the space a bit late. He's like, guys, wait, the website is down. I don't want to be caught up again. But are we sure this time is 100% approved, Matt? You can confirm that.
I can confirm that the 19v4s are approved. As Matt from Van Eck previously mentioned, you still need the S1s to go effective, but most people assume that will happen shortly. Now that we're seeing it back on the SEC site, I'm at least taking a deep breath and reflecting on a historic day. It's really exciting. 10 years to get here, 5 years at Bitwise, and I think it'll change the crypto market for the better. So it's fun to be here.
Is there a chance that those S1s are delayed? Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, how hard has the SEC fumbled this thing? Like, geez Louise, guys. Like, I mean, it's really embarrassing. Like, it's honestly embarrassing.
We had John Reed Stark on this morning, obviously, who was at the SEC for decades. And he was like, yeah, I'm not really surprised that they got hacked. There's no real government, they don't take the cybersecurity so seriously, and probably just bureaucracy and didn't know who was supposed to do it. I mean, the tweet yesterday, literally they got hacked, but they didn't even have their 2FA turned on. Literally, their job is to protect people, and they don't even have their own Twitter account protected at the most basic level. It's astounding.
Jokers.
Gareth, can we get? I see I'm the only one asking constantly for a market update. Gareth, your thoughts on the market's reaction, and people in the audience would love to get your thoughts on this big day. It just seems after yesterday, the excitement has just been drained out of everyone. Plus, we've covered it nonstop for months now. But how's the market reacting, Gareth? It seems to be forward-looking. What I'm surprised at, as well as what Travis was saying earlier, is that everyone was talking about the ETH trade, and you shouldn't be too surprised. And the question is, why wasn't that priced in as well? So Bitcoin's pumps already been priced in over the last few months. How come Bitcoin pumped when the fake news came in about Bitcoin getting approved, on the ETF getting approved? And I'm not talking about yesterday. I'm talking about Cointelegraph a few weeks ago. Is that because it was earlier than expected and now it's expected about now? And then why isn't the ETH trade priced in and now ETH is pumping if the ETF was already expected to? If everyone knew that the ETF is going to be approved, why didn't ETH pump yesterday or the day before, the week before? You got to unmute, Gareth.
Sorry about that. So the first thing is that the price action is really muted. So what this tells us is that everyone was in the camp that it was going to be approved. I think yesterday maybe it caught a few people off guard and kind of popped initially. But again, I think the reaction yesterday of the Sell the News event, or at least the downtick, kind of made even more people today just kind of skeptical and just saying, hey, listen, it probably won't run. It touched the 48,000 level yesterday and is now kind of stalled out. And in regards to Ethereum, I think that the crypto markets have been so excited about the Bitcoin ETF that no one's really talked about Ethereum. In fact, the only things I've heard going into the last month or so was negative things on Ethereum. In fact, a very negative view comparing it to Solana, and maybe Solana is going to eat its lunch. So now all of a sudden you have this news kind of behind us on the Bitcoin ETF, and people are beginning to realize that there might be a trade here on the Ethereum ETF. So I do think that possibly is going to be the next move here, and we're already seeing Ethereum pop pretty nicely to the upside.
And how are alts doing, Gareth?
Let me just take a look here at the alts. Let's take a look at Solana and just bringing up the chart on my screen here. And it looks like Solana, a little bit of Kind of just a little chop. I mean, honestly, there's not much movement in the altcoin market right now that I'm seeing, at least on the bigger ones out there. So again, it's super interesting because I think this is a great example for investors to understand kind of how markets reprice things as they expect things. And you can look to the stock market, right? And the market prices in a certain amount of rate cuts of the Fed, and as long as that's what we get, then the market has priced it in. Here they were pricing in approval at like a 99% success rate. It's exactly what we got. And now the attention of investors is being turned towards Ethereum and potentially other things.
And to the credit of Eric and James and the experts, they nailed it for the day, right? I mean, we've talked about it for months, and they always kind of said January 10th, and that's exactly when it happened. The SEC basically kicked the can down the road to the last possible day. And so that also gave, I would say, no surprises, right? I mean, this process that everybody sort of just really did expect it by today. I really think that the fake tweet yesterday took a lot of the volatility out and what happened last week. I really think that.
I agree. 100% agree. And I also think that it's amazing because, how many people were saying it was going to go up to 60, 70, 100,000. I was in the camp where it was going to be a pop and then a drop. And so far it's been almost nothing. It's kind of catching everyone, flat footed, if you will, including those people that bought options. I mean, you have a lot of options, open interest out there. And so far, a lot of people are going to be disappointed on the lack of volatility.
Let's talk about options because I will need the research team. Maybe someone here can give some clarity, but I believe they're going to be launching imminently alongside these. Matt, do you know anything about that by any chance?
Yeah, in terms of options on the ETF, I think they'll take, they'll take more time than you think. There's a pretty complex process with the exchange that you have to go through. We'll get there eventually, but it's not a matter of. I'd be surprised if it's a matter of days. It could be as long as a year. So I do think that liquidity ecosystem is going to emerge, but it'll take a while. They have some fairly strict rules at the exchange level about that.
Oh wow!
I'm seeing something great, Travis. Travis, real quick. I'm seeing this in our chat that Gensler just had a quote. While we approve the listing and trading of certain spot Bitcoin ETP shares today, we did not approve or endorse Bitcoin. Quote. Wow. What a douchebag. Anyways, go ahead, Travis.
I was going to say, I mean, a year I think would be a lot longer than what people were thinking on options. I don't know, I don't know what people's base case was, but I think people were thinking maybe like weeks to a couple months, I think. That would be interesting.
Yeah, you'll see people push aggressively. It is more complex than even I realized, a handful of months ago. We'll see.
I saw chatter today that it was going to be launched imminently. Now I need to find it. I'm sure that you guys are correct. I'm just a bit surprised. I know Mark Yusko was talking about it.
No, I was just going to ask you a question, but I got my answer. Ran's, I think he's co-hosted now. Did it glitch for you? I think I see you as a co-host. Ran, you there? I knew it was glitching. David, he's always like, guys, I'm not a co-host. Made him a co-host, doesn't know how to unmute. David, would love to get your thoughts. Haven't had time to speak. Your thoughts on the market's response and what that means for crypto moving forward. It just seems that when everyone keeps talking about it every day, month after month, as Scott, you said it earlier today. It's like it's going to launch. The market barely going to budge, and we're going to move on. And it seems that this is what's happening. Like everyone knew it's going to launch, and we've had so much time to absorb it, to digest it. ETH is the only thing that surprised me, but otherwise, your thoughts, David?
I think it's a historical day. I think this is all about longitudinal, and Gary Gensler can say whatever he wants, but Bitcoin is here to stay. And I kind of look at this as when my grandmother started using Facebook. I think there are people that have been on the sidelines that have been waiting, that are very conservative. And Bitcoin is here to stay. It's no longer a subjective asset.
Yeah, and in terms of the ETH, just for the panel, we were debating it earlier, and actually, Scott, I haven't asked you that question. What do you think will happen with it? Do you think an ETH ETF approval by the second quarter? I think you mentioned this. Who was it that mentioned? Was it McKinsey's that mentioned it? Yeah, Standard
Chartered in there.
Yeah, and you thought that was a bit far-fetched. Still stand by that?
I was just surprised to read it. I was just surprised to read it because most of the, you know me, I don't really like to give predictions, especially if I'm not sure. I like to ask for them just like you did. So, all the ETF experts that I've sort of consistently asked that on here and on shows have said,
but the market, but can't we say the market is disagreeing with that?
Well, the market thinks so, but the market is a bunch of degenerates trying to make a quick buck. So I don't think that tells us that it's going to get approved or not going to get approved. I mean, I would love to see it. I think that Rand spoke about it pretty eloquently this morning, why he believes it'll happen. Obviously, with the approval of a Bitcoin, with an Ethereum futures ETF, some can make the same arguments that was made about the Bitcoin futures ETF into the Bitcoin Spot ETF, and the judicial system seemed to agree. Arbitrary and capricious, everybody remembers here. But I'm not expert enough to speak to whether Ethereum is fundamentally different enough from Bitcoin that it could be a different situation, or whether it's the same. Rand, you're here?
There is a risk.
Mic lifted.
There is a risk with Ethereum that it might be classified as a security. I know that's an unpopular.
Right, that's what I said.
But there's only one regulator in the U.S. who's taken that position so far, and that's the New York State Attorney General. The SEC hasn't gone that far, so who knows?
Yeah, I just don't know. Maybe we can get some color on what it means. Obviously, the ETF itself is a security, right? So does it matter? How much does it matter if Ethereum is or is not? I would think that maybe there could be some nuance with the, obviously, proof of work versus proof of stake, and the way that the assets are custodied, whether if they're in a spot ETF, they're allowed to be staked, which could be very interesting. Obviously, an Ethereum spot ETF that has interest, right, carries interest. Matt, I'm going to ask you, Matt Hogan, I mean, do you think that second quarter is a rush? I know you can't speak officially on behalf of Bitwise, but to me that seemed shockingly early.
Yeah, that strikes me as shockingly early. Spot Bitcoin ETF took the industry 10 years to be on the doorstep. I don't know that 10 weeks will get it done. ETH is more complex than Bitcoin, both for its regulatory status and because you have issues like staking to consider. So I think it's an achievable goal, maybe even achievable in 2024, but I don't think I'd be very surprised at the second quarter.
Hold on. Danish, do you have the guts to come up on stage? Right?
Yeah, Danish.
Now we can hear Rand. Now we can hear Rand.
The request. He disappeared.
I've been trying to log on, but for some reason I couldn't hear and I couldn't speak, and Twitter was glitching. But I'm here. 11:40 p.m. We're at.
Yeah.
Mario, you're 1 o'clock in the morning or something?
Yeah.
2 o'clock.
Yeah.
I just saw that. I saw you on YouTube, and you had like 17,000 people watching. That has to be a record, right? I mean, this is big news.
It is big news. It's not our record. It's close. Yeah, I think our record's 20.
You got. Hold on, Danish. Tell us, Danish. What do you think?
Guys, I apologize in advance for anything that happens in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Well,
if we get another fight.
Danish, how are you, bro?
All I know, I'm doing great. I mean, I'm doing great. But the point that I've made does not change. Nothing has changed. Maybe this didn't mean anything like I said it wasn't going to. I mean, what's the big deal? And I have to say something very simple, which is for all the shit that the crypto bros talk about decentralization, welcome to the rest of finance. You are just like everybody else now. Congratulations.
Rand is the one who said that this was like the end of the era for Bitcoin, right, Rand?
Yeah, it is an end of an era. It's the end of us having an advantage over the institutions. It's the end of Bitcoin acting as a non-correlated asset for all intents and purposes. Because ultimately now in time, it's not going to happen tomorrow morning unless BlackRock intend to put 20 billion or 30 billion into it. But it is going to start following institutional money cycles. And when institutions go risk on, we're going to get more movement in Bitcoin. And when they go risk off, we're going to get less movement in Bitcoin. So it is the end of an era, but it's like we're like a parent, and we have 20,000 kids. We've got Bitcoin, and we've got ETH, and we've got Solana, and we've got Celestia, and we've got Injective, and ultimately now only one of our kids has gone to the next level.
Yeah, so this is
and the rest of them, and most of them are apparently going to zero.
This is an end of an era. Just to be clear, the end of an era where we don't have an advantage. Let me mute you, Ryan, because you're on the way. So there's an echo. But there's an end of an era for Bitcoin, but not for the rest of the markets. Like we still have the edge when it comes to other coins, other crypto assets. But Bitcoin, that edge is gone.
Yeah, we do, especially.
Yeah, but I have to say that this likely means now that the whole time Satoshi was the NSA. This is probably what that means, but I have no proof of this.
I mean, look, I'm hearing they're going to launch the next ETF that's going to be approved is CryptoPunks. So you should probably get your hands onto some CryptoPunks.
I guess. Well, it's kind of escalated pretty quickly. Your thoughts on it?
Travis has his hand up.
One more question for Ryan before we go to Travis. Ryan, your thoughts on the price action in general and Ethereum?
So as I said to you guys, I've been saying it to you guys for weeks, and I said to you, the Bitcoin ETF now is priced in. I said it this morning as well. And now the next trade is Ethereum, and now we've probably got 6 months of an Ethereum trade. So, as they say, strap on.
But is it priced in? Because you didn't see a dump either. I know a lot of people were expecting a dump. It's been priced in. By the rumors, tell the news.
It's priced in. Tomorrow, the new narrative is how much money is flowing into the ETFs, how quickly. And I think if BlackRock genuinely do seed the ETF with $2 billion, and we know that there's going to be a buyer tomorrow of $2 billion, because remember how a spot ETF works is if you want to seed the ETF, then you need to put money into it, and that money goes into buying spot, and that money becomes new money on the crypto market. That's what it is. So tomorrow, if BlackRock seed the ETF tomorrow with $2 billion, that's $2 billion of a buy order, I think, going through Coinbase.
But it could be existing Bitcoin that's being converted and moved, which is horizontal.
Yeah, and guys seem to think that $2 billion
that's the bulk of it.
BlackRock, that the large majority of it has already been bought, and I do think that's going to be the crucial difference in the price action over the next week or 2 weeks is going to be what percent of the inflows have already been bought versus our incremental buying. And that'll be the difference between us probably trading, mid 40s, high 40s, or low 50s, basically in the next week or two. The thing that I wanted to say was that Bitcoin has had, I would probably argue since 2020, Bitcoin has had a relationship with macro that is unique to Bitcoin in the crypto space. It represents something different than any other crypto asset. I've said this for a long time. It's the only non-venture bet in crypto. BTC is not a venture bet. Every other crypto asset is a kind of a classically venture type of bet with venture type of returns and like venture type of risk.
Yeah, so I want to ask another question. Travis, you can kick it off and then get the Bill and others. Matt, you're there, is still there. Get your thoughts. What happens next now that the ETF is approved? What's the next step and what should our expectations be? Maybe Travis, you want to kick it off, then we'll go to Matt, Bill, and the rest of the panel.
Well, I mean, I think what I was saying, we're going to look for these initial inflow numbers, and then we're going to look for experts like Eric and James and others to be parsing through, how much of this is new buying versus buying of Bitcoin that has already occurred. And from what I can tell, like the everyday market participant is not going to be able to ascertain that by themselves.
Matt?
Yeah, I just to pry a little bit into my world, day one, there are a certain group of people who can buy it, individual investors, registered investment advisors, family offices, and hedge funds. And so ETF companies will be talking to those people, jockeying to move people from one product to another and bringing people on board. I think the net new money, so the money that's not already allocated to crypto, that will take months, quarters, and years. You need to win approval on major wirehouses. Just because an ETF launches doesn't mean you can buy it at Morgan Stanley. You need to go through their due diligence process. So there are a series of steps, and really, I think the sort of net new money flow after the initial few days burst, you'll start to see that steadily influencing the market in Q3 and Q4, and then for years to come. It starts relatively contained. It takes time, but you're going to have wholesalers from 11 issuers out there talking about Bitcoin to financial professionals controlling trillions of dollars of assets. Over time, that persistent effort is what will be transformative to the market, and I think it will be, but it definitely won't be overnight.
Yeah, so just to be clear, since we kind of had a little conversation about it, even if there's 2 to 4 billion lined up in immediate AUM, the bulk of that is likely not to be new buying and does not mean that there's going to be spot buying necessarily, correct?
Yeah, I think that's probably likely. I do think, and based on I do think there are people who are waiting to come into the market. So I think there are people who couldn't access Bitcoin without an ETF who will be excited to do it. So I'm not saying there's no net new money, but
I was speaking specifically about what we've heard about being lined up. I think there's plenty of net new money. Your guys' survey with Verify addressed that very clearly with the 400 plus RIAs that you guys obviously spoke to. I mean, 88%, right? And 19% said that they could currently give access to their clients to Bitcoin in any way, shape, or form, and 88% said that they were waiting for a Bitcoin Spot ETF to even have that conversation, right?
That's right.
I have a question. Yeah. If BlackRock have already bought $2 billion worth of the ETFs, which money are they using? Are they using discretionary managed funds? Are they using their own balance sheet? Like the $2 billion that they've seeded the ETF with, whose money is that?
I think people are saying that some large chunk of that is out of that BlackRock private Bitcoin fund that they launched, I think in late 22, if I remember correctly. I can't remember when that was, but that's where people are saying that this already bought Bitcoin is coming from BlackRock. Anybody else?
Yeah.